This video is one in a series on streamlining design within AUD. In this video, you'll learn how to add options to the ribbon that directly add specific components without needing to set defaults for those components. This is useful in cases where you don't have an available default set up to specify the component you want, or when there are commonly used components that deserve their own ribbon options. The out-of-the-box AUD ribbon relies on model defaults on the pull-down tabs. So, for example, when you select the Place Pad pull-down and choose Place Pad Mount Transformer, the pad and the transformer are determined by the selections within the Electric Underground Expansion panel. However, for many design environments, there are common models that are used constantly in a design, say either a 50 kVA, a 75 kVA, or a 100 kVA pad mount transformer. So why not have these common options available on the ribbon for direct selection? Let's start with a quick visit to the ribbon to see how the current command, adding a pad-mounted transformer, works. In AUD, I type CUI at the command line to open the Customize User Interface editor. I'll click here and select AUD Electric Distribution.cuix, which is the menu file that contains the AUD ribbon. I'll expand the ribbon selection. I'll click to expand the panels selection. Here you see all of the many panels found within AUD's user interface. I'll expand the AUD Electric Underground panel. I'll expand row 1, at which point I'll see 4 subpanels listed. I'll expand subpanel 2, and under that I'll expand row 1. Finally, I see Place Pad. I'll expand this section as well, and you can see the 3 out-of-the-box options. Next, I'll select Place Pad Mount Transformer. In the Properties section, I see specific details about this command, including the name that will display, the style of the command button, a description, and most important, for this video at least, a CUI macro. I'll click on the macro, then click on the ellipsis to the right, and the macro appears in an editing dialog box. This macro represents the actual command string that is issued. In this case, the command being used is AUD point feature. We'll explore this further in the next part of this video. Back in AUD, let's try running AUD point feature at the command line to follow the macro. Before I do, however, let me explain a couple things about this command macro. The C marks are like typing in an escape. When I refer to this, I'll refer to this as Control-C. The underscore that appears before some of the strings indicates it's a command line version of the command or word, and the semicolons are like pressing the Enter key. I'll type AUD point feature, and I'll see 5 main options available. In my macro, the first thing that appears is installation, so I'll click on Installation. I have 3 choices, and I'll choose Underground. I'll explain this further in another video, but basically I'm choosing one of the default pull-downs, in this case Overhead or Underground or Communications Default Panel. I'll choose Underground, and Control returns to the 5 main options. Now I'll choose Line Type. This is also associated with the default pull-down, and it's actually only required if you're specifying a cable or conductor. I'll click on Line Type, and I'll see 5 options. Following the macro, I'll choose Primary, and Control again returns to the 5 main options. Now I'll choose Features. A list of all the feature classes appear. In this case, I want to add a pad. For now, I'll simply locate pad in the list. Then I'll click on OK. The click on OK is equivalent to the semicolon here in the command macro. Now comes the interesting part. AUD prompts you for a pad attribute name. In the macro, you see a Control-C, which is like clicking on the back button at this point, saying you don't have any attributes you want to specify. But instead, I'm going to scroll down the list and choose Model Name and click on OK. A list of pad models appear. I'll scroll down the list and choose UM1-6C and again click on OK. AUD returns to the previous screen. The commands we just issued would appear like this in the macro. The result will be to override the default setting for pad and instead force selection of the UM1-6C pad. I'll now click on Back, which is equivalent to the Control-C in the macro, and it returns me to the screen where I can select another feature class. But note now the screen is asking for a feature to be contained by the pad. I'll scroll down and choose Transformer and click on OK. This is found in this part of the macro. AUD now prompts for a Transformer attribute name. This time, instead of following the macro, which would give me the default transformer, I'm going to choose Model Name and click OK. A list of available transformer models appear, and I'll choose UG6050, which is a single-phase, pad-mounted 50 kVA transformer. I'll click again on OK. The commands we just issued would appear like this in the macro. I'll now click on Back, which, as you recall, is like the Control-C in the macro. I'll click on Back again, another Control-C. I'll click on Back a third time, another Control-C, and finally I'm back at the 5 main options. You got that? There were 3 Control-C's there, which is exactly what we see in the macro. At this point, I'll click on Exit. AUD is now wanting to insert something, so let's click and see what we get. In Quick Info, you can see that we indeed now have a 50 kVA transformer contained by a UM16C pad. So what should our macro be? Well, because we aren't relying on a default pull-down to specify the model or the line type, we can remove the Install Underground and the line type primary sections as they aren't needed. So the macro can be trimmed down to look like this. We issue the command, we select the Features option, we select the EL pad feature class, we choose a specific model, we hit Control-C, we then specify the EL transformer feature class, again we choose a specific model, then hit Control-C 3 times and select the Exit option. Now that we know what our macro should be, we can implement it in the CUI. I'll repeat the steps performed earlier in the video, back to the point where we can see the current options under the Place Pad pull-down. Now here's where there are some tricks where you can save time. Follow along carefully. First, I'll select the current Place Pad Mount Transformer command. After a few moments, you'll see the command in the Properties panel, and you'll also see that the command is selected in the command list. I'll click on the command within the command list. Now I'll right-click and choose the Duplicate option. This is very important. I don't want to modify the current command because I still want to use it. I want to clone it and then modify the clone or the duplicate copy. The command appears in the command list, and the duplicated version, the one you want to edit, will be the one that is highlighted in the command list. Now in the Properties section, edit the command name to read Place 50 kVA Pad Mount Transformer. Change the description to read Creates a UM16C pad with a UG6050 transformer. Now I'll select the macro, click on the ellipsis, and very carefully edit the macro to match the new version we want. It has to be exact. Click OK, and then click on Apply to keep your changes. Now you still have to add your new command to the ribbon. Find your command in the command list. It should be on top, and drag it to the upper section. Note carefully the insertion line. It should appear as shown here. Now, right-click on the Place Pad entry and choose Insert Separator. 2 separators will appear at the bottom of the section as shown. Select one and drag it above the new command. The second separator, I don't know why it was there in the first place, but that's how it works, will disappear. And now click OK. The ribbon will probably switch to a different tab. I'll switch it back to the electric tab and pull down the Place Pad command. You'll now see your new command. I'll try this new command, and when I do this, you see I'll get the 50 kVA transformer, and it'll be placed on the correct pad as we defined in the macro. Here are some things to note. During the video, I removed the installation and the line type parameters. Since this macro is not relying on the pull-down defaults, these parameters aren't actually needed in the macro. Other videos in this series will explain more about these defaults and how to configure them for use in your ribbon macros. Finally, a practical note. It's always good practice to save your drawing before testing new CUI macros, because once in a while a macro error can actually cause your drawing to quit unexpectedly. Good luck and enjoy customizing the AUD user interface.